Let's see. Let's filter out anything with exchange in it. Well, and the way that you can do this is a new feature, edit filter, and I can say path contains, and I want to do exchange, because I'm not looking for any, I want to filter out any traffic that is, and I want to say exclude, that is the exchange server's legitimate traffic. What I'm going to be left with are mostly outbound connections. And in here, I'm having bad luck. Here we go. 190. Well, the 192's internal 209. There we go. 209 dot. Oh, I thought I saw 209. 229. All right. What is 229? Let's do a copy of that. I'll paste it into Notepad. And actually, I pick a new IP address because there's lots of them to pick from. And then let's go to a site which will tell us where this URL is located, like look up ip.org. It's a good one, or net. Look up ipaddress.org. And let's see what this tells us. Actually, what is the... that's not the lookup. Sorry. .net. Sorry. Oh, that's not the good one either. There's a whole bunch of these, unfortunately. And by the way, a lot of these are serving malware too, which is something to be aware of. Okay, so this one can't find it, but I happen to pick an unlucky one. Here's 105. I should have picked that 105 address we saw. That 105 address maps to this place in Morocco. The company has obviously no sites in Morocco, and so this is something that scared them. And the other IP addresses I just got unlucky point to Tunisia and China as well. So this thing was actually infected probably by multiple botnets, all using the same entry vector and putting the same kinds of malware on the machine to get access to the outside. And that's all visible in the trace here. So they ran, at this point, they said, well, wait a minute, what is the parent process for those transfers? Let me go find one of them. Here's this 105. Which process on the system is talking to Morocco? It's not even that FTP process, it's the SQL server itself. Which the SQL server is not even supposed to be on the internet, much less, or not even supposed to be on this box with this Exchange server, much less talking to Morocco. So at this point, what the support guy did was take a look at the SQL profile, the security, with using a standard script that said, hey, can I log into the SQL server using anonymous? And sure enough, SQL admin password was blank, and it was set up so you could do XP command shell and launch something from it. They went back to the customer and told them this. What the customer believed had happened is that at some point in the past, an administrator, for some reason, was doing something on that Exchange server, installed SQL Server, didn't realize that it was going to be on the open internet, had a blank password, had it with XP command shell, did whatever they were doing, forgot about it, left it there, and botnet trolls scanning the internet found the SQL Server sitting there on the wide open and infected it. And we're now launching these FTP scripts to go pull down and infect the system even further. At this point, Microsoft support said, hey, you should wipe this thing and move on, and that's what the customer did. So a good lesson there, make sure that you understand what you've got running on your servers and looking for suspicious traffic. I want to conclude with a look at a very sophisticated piece of cyber warfare or cyber espionage, depending on how you look at it. Kind of a similar vein to what we just saw of corporate systems getting infected. This piece of malware, how many people have heard of Flame, by the way? So quite a few of you. Flame is associated with one of the most notorious viruses, or the most notorious virus in history, called Stuxnet. So to understand Flame, and I've got Flame ready to go, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Stuxnet. Here, let me find Flame. Here we go. What I'm going to do is launch Flame while we're waiting, because Flame takes a few minutes to infect the system. And I've got to do it using this load library, because here's the main payload of Flame. It's this OCX file. And the way that I'll know that Flame, and I've got Process Monitor sitting here ready, watching with a category is right filter. The way that I'll know that Flame has fully infected is that there's a file that will show up in here called ccalc. So it'll show up right in between these two files, and it'll be there in a few minutes. So we're going to come back to that after I explain what Flame is. Stuxnet was discovered in 2010 when a company's computer, a company based in Iran's computer, was crashing during the reboot. And they thought they might have malware on the system, so they contacted their antivirus company called Virus Blokta, a company based in Belarus, and they said, we think we might have malware. This antivirus company takes a look at the machine, and lo and behold, they discover something that looks very sophisticated. Device drivers that are digitally signed with valid digital certificates that are acting as rootkits. They expose the story, they talk about it, and a few days later, Kaspersky, Microsoft, Symantec all discover more variants of it now that they've got something to look for. And the story breaks wide open in July of 2010 that a very sophisticated piece of cyber weaponry is infecting a bunch of machines on the orders of tens of thousands, almost entirely based in Iran. And that this piece of malware, as they research the behavior of it, is an amazing piece of malware. It's got, the way that it propagates is using 5 zero-day vulnerabilities in Windows. 2 of them to gain admin rights on systems where it doesn't have admin rights, making it clear that this thing was designed for lockdown systems, like you might have, say, in a nuclear weapons facility. It has 2 vulnerabilities that let it spread remotely on the network. And these are vulnerabilities not patched by Microsoft. It's got one that lets it jump from a USB key using an Autorun, an infection of a link parser bug in Explorer, so it can hop off the key onto the system. And that's the primary propagation technique, they believe. Not only that, but it's got drivers that look like they're signed by Realtek and Micron, valid digital certificates by these 2 Microsoft hardware OEMs that happen to be in literally the same office park a few hundred yards from each other in Taiwan. So somebody has stolen these certificates somehow, either physically in that park or infecting both those companies and getting those certs out, and then signed this piece of malware. So it wasn't showing up as something malicious because it had these trappings of a legitimate piece of software. They then discovered that they had a secondary payload, which was another rootkit. Not for Windows, but for the Siemens SEP7 PLC, Programmable Logic Controller, which happened to be the same exact type of logic controller used to control centrifuges used by Iran's nuclear enrichment program and Natanz. And this rootkit inside of it, aimed at this, caused those centrifuges to spin faster and slower than they were designed to, at variable speed, to the point where they would burn out, all the while projecting back false information, telemetry information, to the operator on the Windows system that the centrifuge was operating normally. So what was happening is these centrifuges are burning out, Iran doesn't know what's going on, they start to fire or behead their nuclear scientists, and then it's still happening, so then they're really fed up, and then this story breaks out in the press, and Iran's like, oh, okay, we know what's going on. There's Mahmoud touring the nuclear weapons facility going, wow, Stuxnet. So it's got us. And then about 9 months later, Flame was discovered, also floating around the Middle East. Some people, even like Eugene Kaspersky, called it the most complex piece of malware ever discovered. This thing is also the biggest, 20 megabytes in size.